Hello everyone and welcome back to Vet Chats, where we help veterans share their awesome stories and make the veteran community a better place. I hope you'll stay tuned to hear how this generation is continuing their service. Quick reminder, if you are a female veteran who has ever served in California or is currently serving, or if you have lived in California and you live somewhere else now, please take the California Female Veteran Survey. The California VA is putting this survey out to hear the voices of women veterans to help improve their facilities for female veterans. The link is in my bio. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Data on women veterans is super important, and they're using this to better our facilities. So what's more important? All right, hello everyone. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It is very windy, stormy on the East Coast, so hopefully you're having better weather. And hopefully you're having better sleep as we head to spring ahead today. If you're in a time zone that has to do that, I think most of us are. I hope you are catching up. So tonight we have an amazing guest and someone that I'm welcoming back because he's, me and him were on the same page about a lot of things, especially in the veteran community. So this is going to be a great and important conversation. I hope you'll stick around. So we're going to welcome Juan J.P. Perez. He's a former U.S. Marine, Infantryman and Scout Sniper. He served in Afghanistan, and afterwards he pursued a career in law enforcement. So now what he's doing, he's the founder of VetRise Academy, and he's the creator of the Vet Tribe, which is a positive and free Facebook group for veterans. He focuses a lot on mindset, changing habits, fitness, nutrition, and accountability to support veterans in finding their new purpose and success after service. So tonight we're really getting into the topic of how to make the veteran community a better place by changing the culture. And like I said, this is an important conversation and it's much needed. So let's get into it. And please, questions are always welcome. So I see he's requesting... Oh no, that's someone else. Sorry, I can't let you join. I was just thinking he is in Central Time Zone. So hopefully, hello everyone. Do all my waves. Hey. So, all right, there he is. Okay, I just requested you. Here we go. All right. So I accepted. I'll invite you again. Try this out. It's a thing when you're live. You can never be too prepared of what's going to happen. I don't know, it's acting funny. Hey, JP, I see you if you can hear me. I'm requesting you. So just, here we go. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing? And how's your weekend?
Amazing. Always the best day ever.
Really? Okay. What's the secret to that?
Intentionality. It's all about really waking up and deciding that you're gonna have the best day ever.
I love that because I think I tried to do that today. I stayed up really late last night, but it was like
Same thing happened to me.
And it's like the one day you're supposed to go to bed early, right?
I know.
And it's just like I can't. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like 1 o'clock. Well, it's midnight, but technically it's 1 o'clock. But I didn't feel tired. I don't know. How about you?
I felt pretty good. Yeah, I woke up and I jumped in my ice barrel, and that does it for me. I'm good after that.
So you're straight out of bed. Not even like washing your face. You're going straight to this ice barrel.
I don't allow myself any room to negotiate with myself before I do. If I start to give myself time to think about it, I'll find something to do. I got to do this. I got to do that. Maybe I'll brush my teeth first, and before I know it, I'm doing something else.
Right.
And I find that doing it first thing in the morning, I get the most benefits out of it.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Because the further you push it off, the more you can, like you said, I like the word negotiate with yourself. Oh, I could do it tomorrow, or I'll do it after lunch, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's something like automatic, a no-brainer. Just like kind of when we were in boot camp, it was like you didn't even have time to think. You're getting out the rack, you're doing this, you're doing that.
Yeah.
Sort of mentality. That's awesome. So I'm excited to have you back on as more of a free-flowing conversation. I know last time we kind of introduced you and went through your story and what you've built, and I know you've built up so much more. And congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you.
And
hey, I mean, you definitely played a part in that. You know, very motivating to do it.
really,
Absolutely.
I like that. Oh, that's awesome. So how do you like it? How is life behind the mic?
It's different because I find that even though it's all connected, the message, the coaching, the business, the short form content, the podcast gives me space to say a lot more. I don't feel like I have to get it out in 30 seconds for a reel.
Right.
I like having the conversations with myself. I like getting better at it. The first episode I released was, in my opinion, terrible quality, but instead of deleting it, I just got better and better and better. And I feel like they are getting better. It's been interesting.
Yes. Oh, I love that because that's such a great proof of like growth when you go back and you can look at that first video and say, "Oh my gosh." I have a video like that, my first vet chat. I went on there and I called it a vet talk and I thought it was so funny. Like how nervous I was. I didn't even get the name of my own show right.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, now I cherish looking back on it because I mean, it shows that growth.
Yeah.
Also, just me as fellow podcaster, I'm interested. Do you script these out? I feel like you're someone that can really just go off the cuff and start spouting that.
So I like to take messy action, but at the same time, I'm very much a person that likes to test different concepts, and then when I find what works for me, I'll really dive into that as much as I can. So I've tried both ways. I've tried where I do talking points. I tried where I simply do a topic. I've tried where it's very much more than just a talking point. I type out exactly what I want to hit. And I can hear the difference when I do them. And I believe that because I did the same thing when I was making videos. So you can go back and watch some of my shorts on TikTok, and you can definitely tell which ones are the ones where I'm reading it and where it's scripted, where it's not me being me, it's not me being genuine. You can tell that the inflection of the voice is changing, the tonality. And I find that people like genuineness so much more. And it's not that scripting it isn't genuine. It's just that sometimes when you have something that's coming and you're flowing and you really allow yourself to just think freely instead of having to go off of this list that you want to hit this point and this point, you can go off onto a certain topic and really deep dive and become passionate and tell a story and really share something compared to thinking of like, I have to get back to this point. So I've tried both ways. I think that it's going to be more open, but I'm definitely going to be having like main topic points that I can go off of a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I like that. It's, it opens that gate instead of having to stay in between the lines. What are some of the topics that you've been diving into? Because I know you've probably brainstormed a lot, but what were some of the ones you were really excited to get into?
I'm trying to make sure that my content is geared towards the veterans that need to hear it. We're going to be talking about it today about the negativity of social media, right? But I'm making sure that the message, what I'm sharing, has value. So I'm thinking about what is the purpose of this? Why am I putting this out? What is it that I'm trying to do? Who is it going to resonate with? And some of the things that I've talked about is identity crisis, how you get out of the service and you don't really know who you are because you lost a lot of your culture. I talked about how guilt is your guide, that when you get out, when you start feeling shame about certain things because maybe you're not up to par, instead of pulling away from it, you have to lean into it and change something about that perspective, because when you use guilt as your guide, you have the roadmap of what it is that is affecting you negatively, and then you have to really lean into it and think about what is it that's doing this to me, to make some changes. I made a video about the 10 biggest lessons I've learned with coaching veterans for the past year, and things like that.
I love it. I love the guilt is your guide, because that kind of like just helped me reflect. I grew up Catholic, and so like guilt is such a core element as a part of that culture, and guilt has definitely been my guide a lot along the way. And
I also grew up Catholic.
Yeah, so you relate. It's just,
school and everything.
It's just a part of us. Yeah, it's just guilt is kind of built in, and it's something that I've really tried to let go of, because it doesn't serve you at all. It just I don't know, it kind of serves your ego, I guess, because you're doing things because you think you're supposed to, or whatever. But yeah, I love that. So you are very vocal, and I love the way you put everything out there on social media, because you tell people things, especially veterans, things they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I've also played this role a few times, and sometimes I find myself pulling back, because I'm just like, I can't deal with this today, with everyone, coming at you, and someone, you yourself being infantry, and you probably have a lot more people that are following you that were infantry, more of the vet bros, dare I say.
It's true.
They're coming after you. What does that discourse look like? Let's start with that.
So I find it interesting, because how do I put it? When we leave the military, we have this culture shock, the same way we had a culture shock when we go into the military. But when we go into the military, the culture shock happens, but then you're in the culture. When you have the culture shock of coming back into society, it's very hard to adapt, because you still miss the biggest part of your life at this point, right? So like when you're 18, what do you know? You don't really know a lot. Like, you think you know a lot, but then you realize you go to boot camp, you have a drill instructor yelling in your face, you realize just how little you know. And as you get out of the military, you have another culture shock, but there's no sort of support system. There's no platoon, there's no team leader, there's no one there to guide you. And you revert back to the mentality of that self-sufficiency, of being, the glory of it all is in the struggle of going through it. What I've noticed is that veterans use social media as a way to find this echo chamber of validating their feelings. So when something that they believe to their core is true, it gets questioned, they take it personally. I'm in a Facebook group where it's only Marines, and there's 140,000 members in there. I was asked personally by the admin of the group to come in there and share the messages that I've been sharing. So I started doing that. Facebook, surprisingly, actually not surprisingly in my opinion, 10 out of maybe 11 of the replies are negative. Real negative. I mean, like, just disparaging me. And initially it did bother me, but then I realized that if they're taking it personally, it's not something that's going to change their mind. It's not something that is really even going to affect them, because they are stuck in their ways. Mm-hmm. And if they take it personally, it says much more about them, because it means that it's bothering them. It means that they know that there's some truth to it. A message that I posted recently saying that just because it's the way we've always done it doesn't mean it's the way we have to keep doing it. We have to change veteran culture. No one is being attacked in that post, but so many people took it very personally. So many people were calling me names, telling me that I must be a pogue, telling me that I must have never deployed, telling me that I have no idea what I'm talking about, calling me names. But the people that I focus on is the one out of the 11, the veteran that messages me and says, "Thank you for saying that. I've never thought." They watch my videos, and then once they do a deep dive into it, they see that there are other ways of thinking, that the group mentality of this is the way we do things, we have to be tough, we have to be resilient, that we glorify that struggle. We tell ourselves that we have to embrace the suck. We're not in anymore. We're not here to prepare for war. There's no firefight around the next corner. We have to find peace. And TikTok, complete opposite. I mean, complete. No negativity, plenty of appreciation. It seems like there's just more veterans of the millennial veteran in TikTok than there is on Facebook.
I could see that. Okay, there's a delay. So if anyone could comment to see that we're still coming in clear, I think it might be my weather, but like the sound is off from you. Am I off?
You're good on my end.
Okay, you're good now. All right.
Good.
Okay, I just got to check in on that. Yes, yeah, there's definitely, you're going to hit a nerve with that generation that's been told to suck it up their entire careers. And then when they got out, there wasn't that support. So there's also that kind of, I had to just suck it up and hold it together and not talk about it. You should too mindset, which is something I see a lot. And I wish we could get over that because it just comes from a place of hurt, and it doesn't help anyone, including themselves, but they just feel like, they're upset that they're not getting that support. And I think that's definitely one of the nerves that you're striking. Like someone said, you're hitting a nerve with them, but your message is absolutely needed. So instead of, we can't change everyone, right? We can just promote our message and hope it resonates with someone. How is there any way that you tailor your messages so it can resonate with veterans like that?
So a lot of my messages are to me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, because I went through it. I was the egotistical, judgmental, chip on my shoulder, salty veteran that I felt like I deployed to Afghanistan. I'm a scout sniper. These kids don't know anything about anything. I took pride in the fact that at my workplace, people respected me in my mind because they feared me because I was cockier and I was better at my job than them. I made all the mistakes in the book. I went through divorce. I gained 40 to 50 pounds. I was drinking every day. I hated myself and I hated everybody. And because of that, I can understand that the message needs to be crafted a certain way to be able to get through the noise, to really resonate with someone. It needs to sometimes be a slap in the face. It needs to sometimes really be something that stops you in your tracks and you listen to it. Because if it's just a message that you hear where it doesn't really resonate with you too deeply, you're going to watch it once and then maybe that's it. But if it's something that really like hits, it's something that you're going to want to hear more about. It's going to stop you. And my aim, my goal is to have every person that watches my video that needs to hear it, my videos, my podcast, whatever it is, I want them to feel like I'm speaking directly to them. And a lot of people say that because I craft the message thinking about what did I need to hear back to then and what is it that I think that people need to hear now to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that I've made or that they start correcting the path of their life much sooner than it took me, right?
Yeah. And I like how you do it because it comes off like really harsh and intense. But I think that's what veterans respond to, right? Because it kind of relates them to the military. It's very direct. It's very matter of fact. We're going to deliver it. We don't care about your feelings, sort of thing. And I think that's what gets through to them because they don't speak the language of calm and healing.
It's definitely, it's definitely packaged a certain way where it is that slap in the face, but then there's a bit of reaffirmation of ensuring them that they are doing the things that they can do, but that they can do more and providing value as much as they can while leaving them wanting more, right? So like it's packaged a certain way where it is that harshness in a way, but like you said, they want that mentor, that leadership. Mm-hmm. Something else that I've been throwing around in my head is that there's a lot of people that went into the military that maybe they didn't have a father figure or a mentor, and then they lost it, just like that. And then they're looking for something, they don't find anything, and instead they find a group of people that is suffering alongside with them. And then instead of understanding that they have to really fit into this society to not only survive but thrive, they seclude, they alienate, they allow themselves to make up reasons, make up all these excuses of why they're misunderstood, of why they don't fit in, of why society is so jacked up. Because it's easier to make up a reason or an excuse than to look at yourself and say that it's something that you need to change in yourself. So sometimes that message that they need to hear is the right way to do it. I like to think something that, so I have a business coach, and my business coach is the reason why I'm able to do what I can do, because he helps me deliver the message a certain way. And I invest in the coach the way that I want people to invest in me or in other people, because at the end of the day, it's all about growing and being mentored and learning that there are better ways to do stuff, because you can take messy action all you want, but if you're going down the wrong path, the messy action isn't going to become clear the further you're going down that path. You need to kind of have an idea of where you're headed. So all that is to say that it's delivered in a way to resonate with them, to give them what they need. Give them what they want, and then give them what they need once they start seeing more and more of my content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a great approach and such a way that will resonate with veterans. If we want to zoom out a little bit and kind of look at veteran culture as a whole, I have a few complaints I can say, but you talk a lot about mindset, and I know we just went over a few things, but what is something when you're in that mindset when you get out and it's hard to be told anything? What kind of other things do you see veterans struggle with as far as mindset?
When a lot of veterans get out, in my opinion, they joined because they wanted to become part of something larger than themselves. They joined because they wanted to feel indestructible. They wanted to feel like they were larger than life, right? So you go through this period of time where you're expected to be at the top of your game. You're expected to show up to work when you're sick. You're expected not to fall out of the hump. You're expected not to complain. You're expected to be able to be self-sufficient if you needed to on the battlefield. You're expected to do all these things. And the moment that you ever show weakness, vulnerability, any sort of sickness, illness in the military, what happens? You become ridiculed. People call you names. You become ostracized. So it very much creates this image in your head that you cannot be weak. Now, it serves a purpose when you're in the military, because in the military, you do need to be self-sufficient. You do need to be able to be that one-man operation in worst case scenario. They have to prepare you for that. But the problem is that when you transition out, we bring a lot of the qualities from the military. We leverage a lot of the stuff from the military if we're smart about it, such as the discipline, the willingness to try new things, the creativity, the ability to adapt. But then we also bring a lot of negative things with us. We bring a lot of baggage, a lot of the trauma that we never realized is hurting us. Because now that we're in the civilian world and we feel this feeling of inadequacy, or we feel this feeling of not knowing what's next, or we feel like we need help, or we're having these nightmares, or we're dealing with problems, or I can't get a job. It's very hard to change your mindset and realizing that you can ask for help. Because the moment that you start thinking that way, you remember that time that Lance Corporal Smacatelli fell out of a hump, and from there on out, they called him all these names, and that was weakness. Or the moment that somebody went to see the wizard in the military, the therapist, and from there on out, everyone called him the crazy one, or he never went on a field op, or they put him on suicide watch, and he became ostracized. So you have all these reference points in a very, very formative time of your life that when you get out of the military, there's a very, very little chance that you're going to be able to change them like that. Now, how do we do that? How do we go about actually changing the reference point of understanding that asking for help and being vulnerable isn't a weakness? Well, in my opinion, it does start with testing the waters, by finding people that have been out a little bit longer than you, by allowing yourself to drop a little bit of that ego, something negative that we also bring with us, making friends with other people, making connections, joining communities, being part of a group, and learning as much as you can from other people, seeing that there's other ways to do things, realizing that when someone else asks for help, or someone else says that they were going through something, or something as small as showing up late, and they don't get ridiculed. Nobody makes them stand in the corner. My first college class that I was in, I think you've heard me tell this story. I was in a college class, and this girl fell asleep in the front row. And in my mind, the negative baggage that I brought with me is that I'm responsible for everybody here, because if they're not paying attention, me as an NCO, as a leader, I have to do something about it. And instead of paying attention, I brought the negative mentality with me, my mindset, and I went and I said something to her in the middle of break, and I told her to stand up if she was going to fall asleep. I know. I didn't realize how wrong that was in the moment, because my mindset was very much geared towards the fact that I am an individual that is responsible. I lead people. I'm a Marine. I'm held to a different standard, and I'm going to lift people up. Thankfully, the professor saw this. He came to talk to me, and he asked me, were you in the military? And I said, yes. And I thought I was going to get an attaboy. And he tells me, he's like, you can't do that anymore. You're not in the military anymore. And that was such a moment for me of me realizing that I am no longer surrounded by my peers. I'm not surrounded by people that raised their right hand, by that 1% that actually decided to join the military. I am now back in a culture that honestly I've really never been a part of. And the same way that if someone from America moves to France, they have to learn the language, they have to learn the customs, the courtesies, the way of living out there, because if they keep living the way they lived in America, they're not going to have a successful time in France. We need to understand that leaving the military is very much like that, where you're leaving one culture and you're coming into a culture that you have to learn that it's okay to be vulnerable, test the waters, meet new people, drop the ego, learn something new, realize that you don't have to correct everybody, realize that you are not responsible for everyone else besides yourself. The more you do that, I think the more you'll realize that it is safe here, that you're not being judged, that not everyone is thinking that you're this crazy veteran with PTSD. I think sometimes the mentality of either I'm better than everyone else because I'm this cocky, arrogant veteran that I think I'm better than everybody else, or the mentality where I feel like everyone is judging me because they think I'm this crazy PTSD veteran. I think both extremes are very, very harmful. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to find ways to mitigate each one of them by healing and by also realizing that you have to humble yourself. You don't know everything anymore, right?
Yes, all of that. Oh, where do I even want to start? And I love how you keep bringing up the ego, because that's really the common thread through all of it. And our ego was really, we could explain our ego with our uniforms. Like, this is where that comes from. It's a no-brainer. And then when you get out, it's like, there's nothing that you look like is going to explain your mentality, except for, maybe like the still haircut or the tattoos. Someone might point it out, especially for guys. But yeah, you can't explain that chip on your shoulder with simply how you look. You have to learn how to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of touched on this earlier with the generational things, but what do you picture for the future of the veteran community? We're always going to have that struggle when we get out in those that period of just confusion and isolation. But how are you seeing? I'd like your kind of opinion on this, of how you see shifts in the culture of the veteran community.
I think one of the biggest shifts in the veteran culture is actually happening before they become veterans. The algorithm on TikTok, for some reason, is pushing a lot of my videos to active duty guys. And they're reaching out, doing things that I never thought about doing. We didn't have social media like that when we got out, right? I got out in 2013, and there's guys messaging me, guys and gals messaging me saying that I get out in 6 months, a year.
Yeah.
I get out in 2 years, and I'm just scared, or I'm trying to prepare, or I want to realize that the world isn't scary. And watching your videos helps me realize that, I'm not the only one that feels this way. So I think that the fact that civilians or society and military is much more intertwined now, because we have active duty guys that do the social media, or we have people like us that talk about these issues where active duty people can see this. I think that the blending of it is helping, because I think that we can see both sides now and understand it a little bit more. Now, I know that
Right.
TAPS and certain services in the military are helping with transition, but I will say this, and I stand by this, is that the military will never, ever worry themselves about the veteran. They are more concerned, as they should be, about the pulley, about the recruit, about winning wars and preparing people to be in the military and fight the wars. That is their primary concern, as it should be. And a lot of people don't like that I say this because they're telling me, oh, well, the military brought you in and they indoctrinated you. Yes, but then you got out, and the VA, as well as you're responsible for yourself, because it might not be your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And you are exactly where you are at right now because of all the decisions you've made. And that's powerful because that means that your future is in your hands because you can start making different decisions today. So I think that the fact that we get to see active duty guys getting out, being more concerned about their future, seeing videos like ours, talking about the issues that we're facing, gives them the upper hand because when they get out, they actually realize that there is such a thing as a veteran ego. I had never heard that, thought about it, realized it until it was way too late, and I was going through a lot of stuff in my life. I never pictured it. I never thought about it. It wasn't even in my mind because in my mind, like I said, I did more than other people. I was arrogant. I was cocky. I was really good at my job because of the military that I brought certain skills with me, but I didn't leave the baggage behind. And I think that active duty guys, seeing these messages, seeing these videos, interacting, asking questions, realizing that when they get out, it's going to be challenging, but they're going to have issues. However, they can leverage a lot of skills from the military, a lot. It's just about realizing that being self-aware is one of the most important things you can do when you get out, because then you don't fall victim to the trap of feeling like you have to revert back to your military mindset. Like our skills are transferable, and it's all about translating them into a new world. Language matters. I tell people, like, it's not about putting all your awards on your resume. Nobody knows what a car is or a combat action ribbon. People understand what it means to be in charge of $1 million equipment, making sure that you were in charge of a team of individuals and you were able to accomplish this or that on a timeline. But until you really think about doing that and you let go of the fact that you feel all this pride in the military, it's going to be very hard. I think veterans, they go through this phase where they want to get out and they hate the military and they're out and they want to separate and they're tired of the morning PT. And then they have this honeymoon phase of I'm free. I get to do whatever I want. I get to sleep into whatever I want. I get to eat whatever I want. And then they get angry because they realize that they don't fit into this world because they have a lot of tendencies that don't really fit into this society. And then they start to miss it. And then they start to wear their military stuff. They start to go to the VFW. They start to hang out with only veterans. And then that's when they start to alienate themselves more and more and more from society because they are not successfully integrating. They get to that point right before they do. And instead of doing the work of picking apart what issues I have, what things I need to change, what qualities do I possess that no longer serve me, they hold on to that. And it becomes their pride. And they almost feel personally attacked when someone questions it, and they revert back to feeling that the military was the best thing they've ever done. And all they do is talk about it, and they lean on it, and they say that society is messed up and that nobody understands us and that the VA is all jacked up, and then they get stuck there. And then before you know it, they're 40, 50 years old on Facebook talking down to a veteran who's trying to help other veterans.
Right. Yeah, I love how you tied that back in there. Going back to the original question and kind of what we were talking about there, I think you're so right because there is that we're kind of breaking that wall because, the military, you're in such a bubble. Like when I got out, I didn't know many people who were not tied to the military. And now when you have social media, you could really look up, you could follow someone who's making it on the outside. What did they go through? And I think having access to that is so crucial. And I also get so many messages saying, I'm getting out in a year, 2 years, what advice do you have? And I'm like, wow, I always respond, you are on the right path just by thinking about that because most people don't even have that thought until 2 days before they're signing.
I know. It's so crazy to me that like what you just said, just that was such a foreign concept to me. Like I never thought about that. I was just, I'm out now. What, you know? I didn't think about asking for help or asking what it was like at all.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, how could you? Because you're in that military bubble. You're not even exposed to what it could be like. You just think you're literally just going to keep living on. You don't even know that this identity crisis is coming. And so when you get out and after that honeymoon phase, I love that because it's so true. You're just embracing the freedom and it just hits you. You're just like, wow. And then you go through that hating the military. I'm going to do this on my own. They just dropped me off. I'm going to figure this out on my own. And I've seen so many people go through it, and I thought I was crazy until I saw my husband go through it, my best friend go through it, and I'm like, all right, you'll get over this. You know, you're just kind of, you know, you don't even want to hear about the veteran stuff I'm doing because you're in that anti kind of, I can do it on my own phase. So it's just kind of something that I think is really cool with the future of the veteran community, and I can see it just becoming such a more place of healing rather than of hardship, which is what we see of a lot. So I'm curious more about your experience coaching one-on-one. What type of veterans are reaching out to you, and at what point in this kind of whole journey that we're kind of talking about are they on?
So I'd love to answer that, but first I want to say that I truly love what you're doing. I think you're an inspiration for so many of us veterans because, like you said, it's hard to put yourself out there, and for people to not only attack you, but to say some honestly evil and crude things. And I know that you went through a lot of that initially, and I think it's very brave the fact that you continue to keep going because a lot of people can't put up with that. And it's not about putting up with it and that you have to just suffer through it. It's about the fact that you understand that it's more about them than it is about you, and that your message is for the people that need to hear it, that want to hear it. And I just want to say that was a huge inspiration for me, and it was one of the reasons why I was much more willing to push the boundaries a little bit more with some of my most recent videos. So I just want to say that. And yeah, and to answer your question, it has been absolutely amazing. I've been doing the veteran-specific coaching for just over a year now. We've had over 100 veterans in the program. I think we just hit 120 total come in and leave, come in and start, renew, stay. And I find that the veterans that come through the program that are the most successful are the veterans that not only have felt like they hit rock bottom, but that they've started doing work on themselves, that they've maybe started therapy, that they quit some of the drinking. Perhaps they've worked on their relationship. Perhaps they've already realized that they're not happy with where they're at. There's a lot of veterans that want to do the coaching, they want to join the program, but unless they realize that what they've been doing hasn't been working, it won't be beneficial for either one of us. Most of my veterans in my program are veterans that understand that what they were doing before, not only it wasn't working, it was hurting them. And we've had couples that have joined the program because when couples join together, I think I have a couple here, Savannah and Steven, shout out to you guys, but they mutually support each other because it's not just about the individual working towards themselves. It's about that you're doing what you're doing so you can show up better for your family. You can show up and be around longer for your family. My program is based on fitness. It's the foundation, but it's the foundation, meaning that everything that we build on that is about understanding negative self-talk, limiting self-beliefs, setting boundaries, realizing that as veterans, we have tendencies to over-volunteer, realizing that as veterans, we have tendencies to get a lot of purpose from what we do in our jobs. And when we don't feel happy there, the rest of our life suffers. So we do a lot of work, not just on the fitness, because when you work out, your mind is in a better place and you can do a little bit more. You have more bandwidth. You delete some of the files that are open on your hard drive that you just don't need anymore. And you just start feeling a little bit more brave. You just start thinking about, all right, I do want to start therapy, or I do want to have this conversation with my mom, or I do want to reach out to my buddies that I haven't talked to in forever, or I do want to admit the fact that alcohol is a problem, even though I've been telling myself that it's not. And it's been just absolutely amazing.
Yes, I'm sure as you've been doing this for a while, you're probably learning so much, and it
So
just
much.
kind of, and it just makes it automatic for, you to really understand the community that you're serving and to create content that will resonate with them. So I could just see that. That's incredible. And I like that you touched on the support. That's so crucial because we have people that reach out, like spouses or even like boyfriends and girlfriends,
Yeah.
or moms have reached out to me and they're like, what is wrong? Like, they got out of the military. I don't know how to talk to this person anymore. And it's my best advice is to you know, just be there for them, but it's not, I don't ever tell them to push anything, but
I
just
agree.
encourage those good habits and kind of model those habits and show how
Yeah.
they affect your life. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I also get messages from moms, girlfriends, husbands, wives, and it's always they reach out because they say that my videos help them understand what their veteran is going through. And I think that that's very important. But the awareness piece has to be tied with changing of some behaviors, in my opinion. So you're right. I don't think that pushing something on someone is going to make anybody change. You can't impose your will on people. I think that what you said about demonstrating the good habits, encouraging them by inviting them and by accepting the things that they have about them and not trying to change them, understanding that by you as a family member displaying the fact that you can wake up early in the morning and go get a workout in and go for a walk and eat all these healthy meals, and you get to enjoy a movie at night because you don't have to feel angry about the world. They're going to see that there's other ways of doing things. The veteran will see that a lot of the tendencies, the things that they were surrounded by, think about it, especially well, not especially anybody, because everyone had their own experiences. I'm trying to move away from speaking specifically. Every veteran had their own experience, right? But veterans have the experience of being away from their family, being away from society, not being at birthday parties, not being around for some holidays, being around people that are very much centered on, in a way, themselves and the military. So they don't understand what it's like to be able to take time off, to rest, to feel like they can enjoy their lives because they always have to do something more. They have to be able to be capable. They have to do all these other things. So showing them that you can enjoy life and you can have peace, I think is a great example to hopefully show that veteran that the culture that they're in now is safe. There is changes. They don't have to be the lone wolf anymore. Like everyone thinks about that mentality of like, I have to be self-sufficient. I have to be this lone wolf, but the lone wolf dies. Like nobody tells you that part of the story, right? The lone wolf needs a path. You need a community. And to just add one more point, the things that you can leverage from the military that I think are qualities that can continue to serve you is being part of a community, being part of a team, understanding that you have certain skills and certain qualities that do serve you, the discipline, the willingness to try new things, the creativity, the adaptability. Most veterans, when they go into a job, they're going to have to start a little bit lower sometimes. And that hurts a lot of veterans' ego, right? And they don't realize that they are a newbie, a cherry, a boot, whatever you will, all over again. And they have to start there because they have to take all this information in. But if they leverage the things that they know from the military of taking in information, acting on it, being creative with problem solving, finding solutions to things before they even become problems, showing up on time, working a little bit harder than everybody else, they can surpass a lot of the civilians or society, if you will, and become a boss before they know it. It's just about understanding that you have all these skills and you have to leverage them while letting go of the negatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not comparing yourself to others in your workplace that got out and they were able to start working on their career, and that's hard. But and it's also hard. It's crazy how we think about the military camaraderie, that teamwork, but like you mentioned, most of us feel like we're a lone wolf. We're out on our own so much because sure, you depended on your coworkers in the military, but they were also like here and there, you know, changing duty stations. You know, there wasn't really that solid. So when you get out, you're kind of hesitant to depend on who's ever around you as well.
Yep.
But that was an incredible answer. All of these answers were amazing, JP. And I'm sad that we're coming up on time. It goes by fast. It feels
doesn't it?
It feels like we just hopped on the live. So this was exactly what I wanted. Such a great conversation, and I think it's important. And I want to thank everyone who joined, because you know, I've been looking through the comments and they're just all amazing, and I feel like we're doing a lot of great reflection and a lot of aha moments. So this is great. And if anyone who was listening to the replay, I hope you got a lot out of this. I know you did. And JP, finally, I want to thank you for being here. And is there any last thoughts, and where can people find you?
Question: do these comments save anywhere?
They don't.
That's so. I didn't have a chance to read them all, and I feel so bad because I was trying to focus on the conversation, but I was seeing some of them. So
I know.
I want to say,
I wish they did.
Thank you guys all for being here. I'm sorry if I didn't see your comment. I appreciate each and every one of you. You can find me at JP the Veteran Coach on all socials, and you don't mind if I talk about the podcast, do you, that I just started? Because of you.
Of course, we're gonna.
So I just started a podcast called the VetRise Podcast with Juan Perez. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Music. And as far as last thoughts, take time and get to know yourself. When you left the military, you felt like you were this one individual. You're going to take some time, and you're going to have to really destroy that person and destroy the ego and rebuild. Find what you like, become good at it, and that's how you create your passion. You don't have to find that purpose. You can create it by just really taking some time and realizing what you enjoy and really just giving it everything you have that you know how to do because you have the skills.
Yes, absolutely. Fabulous. Great final message. JP, thank you again for being a part of this, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.